Alright, what's up everybody? So, really quick disclaimer, OBS is giving me some issues currently, so hopefully it doesn't crash or anything. It's happened a couple times, so if it does, I'll just try and restart the stream and just hope it works from there, but just bear with me while we go through this. If you guys want to chat anything within the stream, I can see it right here on the right side. If you have any questions or need to comment anything or anything like that, just let me know. I can see all your chats right here. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to roughly, I don't know if I'll go through the whole process. I mean, I will. I just don't know how much time I'll spend on it. But we're going to go from looking at this photo on the left here and how I transformed it to the one on the right. As in recent months, I feel like my editing process has gotten a lot more in-depth. I've taken a lot more time with things, and it's a lot more fun. I've learned a lot of new techniques that I like kind of sharing with people and saying, what's up, Aaron? So we're going to do that. I'm going to start in Lightroom. That's where I start with all my adjustments, and then we'll move into Photoshop where a lot of the stuff happens later. So if anybody has questions, like I said, throw them over there, and anytime I'll keep checking over at it. Hey Adam. And if you have anything, I'll just answer it as soon as I can. So this is where we started. This is a directly out of camera raw file. I mean, this exact thing. So you can kind of see generally some of the stuff I did made a little colder in some spots, warmer in some spots, saturation, shadows, can't speak today. I'll be right back in 10 seconds. I need some water. That's one thing I need. All right. So what we're gonna do, this is the actual photo that I adjusted. You can see all the adjustments I did. I'm gonna send it right back here, and we're just gonna reset everything. We're gonna start fresh. So where I always start is I'll come down. Usually this is unchecked. I'll check enable profile corrections because every lens has some level of distortion on it, and it's just nice to get rid of that. And then remove chromatic aberration. Never hurts to do it. Sometimes it may not make a difference, but better than nothing. Then generally what I do is I'll go to sharpness. I usually leave it at 100. And then what I'll do to not have everything be sharpened that much, I'll move this masking slider around here on the right side. And if you want to see exactly like what that is affecting, you hold down Option for me on a Mac. I'm pretty sure it's Alt on a Windows computer, and you can see all of the edges in white where it's going to be doing the sharpening. So I do want a good bit on this one, so about 25 I think will be good. Because I shot this at ISO 100, I really don't have any worry about noise. I mean, you can't really see any on there, so upping my luminance I don't think is necessary right now. So then from there, I start working my way through the basic tab, the tone curve, and then we start tackling the color. Okay. So there's never one exact amount that I like to go down or up with any of these, so I like to just slide it and start seeing what it does. I like that I'm removing some of that haze right in here. But if I bring it all the way down, I don't like that there's now nothing here. So I'm going to keep those highlights up a bit, maybe about there. I definitely want some detail to pop out in these shadows, but not too much. I still want to be kind of subdued. So if we start moving these, I think that's a little too high. So I think generally around there is where I'll sit. And I'll adjust this kind of as I go on, because I never know if this is going to be perfect right off the bat. One thing I did forget to do, which I should have done at the very beginning, if I need to, I like to straighten my image at the very beginning. So you can see down here especially, it's pretty slanted. So if I just hit auto, it usually does a pretty good job. Looks about good to me. And so I'll just hit done. Make it a little straighter. Just helps a little bit. We're going to end up removing this anyways, so it's not like it's that big of a deal, but just kind of a pet peeve I have. Next, I mess with these a little bit. Something I've been doing a lot recently is when I was beginning in photography, I would do that. I would crank the clarity slider all the way. I thought it looked really cool. I think it's something a lot of beginners do. And in some cases, sure, it might do the job just fine. I like getting edges really defined. I like adding a lot of detail in there. So what I've started to do is I'll up the texture a good bit, and then I'll drop the clarity. So they kind of counteract each other. I like the effects of texture more than I like the effects of clarity, because clarity kind of drowns out the saturation. It pumps that contrast in a really weird way as you get really weirdly defined. But with texture, it's just kind of the edges getting defined. If you push it really far, you'll have those kinds of weird effects. So I do both, one positive, one negative, to kind of counteract each other. Then on this, I think I did a good bit of dehazing. I can't remember, though. That might be something we go back in and we touch up a little later. Vibrance is my best friend, really is. So you can kind of see there when I crank that all the way, you can start to see exactly where that photo ended up. A lot of these blues came in, the oranges and the light came in, and the blues up here came in. I don't think it's a good idea to crank pretty much any slider all the way to 100, so I'm apprehensive to do that. So I'll leave it around 30 to start. And in this particular image, because it's so drowned out in the raw, I'm going to pump the saturation a little bit too, even though that's something you should also, I think, be pretty careful of, because it can have detrimental effects pretty quickly. But in this one, the effects won't be as bad. Okay. So, like I said, I'll come back in here and I'll adjust a lot of this again. But I'm just kind of doing my preliminary stuff right now. So then I'll go into the tone sliders here. And usually this one gets bumped up a lot. This one gets bumped up a little, decent amount. And then sometimes I bump this actually to the right a little bit as kind of a shadow booster. But I don't know if that's what I want to do on this photo. So let's drag all these back. This is another case where I don't have an exact value I drag any of them to. I just drag it till it looks good, pretty much. So if we just look at that one, I like what it's doing a little effect up in here, but it's also brightening this area, that area I was talking about that I like with the highlights. So put that to 50. Then the lights, this one's pretty strong. I don't like to do too much of it, but about there should be fine. Shadows, not too much because it's a pretty dark foreground to begin with. And then I think I'm gonna up those darks like I said. Cool, so you can see already, just from basic light adjusting, really, and a little sharpening, the tiniest bit of color adjustment, how much more we've already brought out of the image in terms of contrast and everything. Is everything looking good so far? Any questions from the 5 of you? Take a break, see if anybody has anything. How's everyone's day, by the way? How y'all enjoying the quarantine? Make sure we're all good. All right, my latency might be pretty high because I'm watching my stream. All right, I'll keep an eye on it. I think we're good though. Okay. Hey Joe, I'm loving all the love. Okay, so the next, I'll continue to mess with the tone curve. This is kind of a one and done thing generally for me. I've always been a fan of the, I'm sure a lot of you know the app Visco, VSCO. I've always kind of been a fan of the aesthetic when you edit through that application. And so I found a little method of kind of making that happen. So you pick a point, it's called an S-curve. I'm sure a lot of us know that. You pick a point up here, and I like to drag that decently high. I don't want it to get too crazy, so probably right there. Then I get on this line here, I'm going to drag those blacks down a little bit. And then what I'll do to get like the visco look, you usually crank this up, you matte those blacks. I'm not going to do that yet or nearly that heavy. Playing Borderlands ready for you to finish. Great day so far. I'm going to mess with the whites and the blacks first up here, and then I'll adjust that, and we'll kind of be done with light at that point until later in the photo when I need to micro adjust things. So what I generally like to do, you can see up here via this little triangle, that's where the image is peaking. That's like where it's overexposed in the whites. So generally, I like to drag that until nothing is overexposed, which in this case will be right there. So I'll leave it there for a sec. I'll see how that looks. And then we'll do the same thing with the blacks, but just in the opposite direction. So you can see if I crank it like right here, that all of that is underexposed. So I'll crank this back, and I'll just do it right to where it's where all information is retained there. Nothing is under or overexposed for right now. So it's looking pretty good. I think I want to up the shadows a little bit more. Probably about there. I think I like that. And now I'll matte those blacks just a little bit, but not too much because I don't want it to be too heavy. You know, if I go to like right here, you lose so much detail. So it's a matter of just finding the kind of right amount, which I think is going to be right around like 5% or so. Cool. So all of that's looking pretty good. I want to mess with some color hue and saturation now. Then I'll mess with this stuff here. Of course, we got to do split toning. That's something that can really help out in the end. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Then we'll mess with calibration too. I go back and forth with when I want to add the vignette. Generally, when I'm editing, I like to add it in at the very beginning. I don't know why. And since it's showing you guys how I edit, I guess we'll just do it. Good rule of thumb for me, I never go above 20. It looks a little too heavy at that point, I think. Especially if you go to like, you know, here, it's way too much. So I sit around 10 to 15 about. I think that should look good. So you can kind of see the difference that we're making already. And like I said, all we really messed with is light so far. A little bit of vibrance, but that's it. So now let's jump into color. And these edits won't be final. When I throw this into Photoshop, I do more color editing in there. But this is just kind of the preliminary big push of everything. So we're going to start with saturation. I know I want my oranges right here to really pop out. I mean, this is kind of the look we're going for. You can see how much I really cranked the oranges and the yellows and everything on that. So we'll start there. And I use this little, I don't know what you even called it. You click this and then you find an area in the image that you want to adjust the saturation on, rather than guessing, I think that's orange, and then just messing with that independently. What's cool about this is I can drag it on a spot and it'll adjust two colors that are associated with that area at the same time and at like an equal rate. So we'll go about there to start. I think split toning is going to be the real savior in this area. And I forget what I did with the shadows. I'm going to move the blues up a little bit, but then what I'll do to kind of counteract the boost in color will be to up the luminance on it just a little bit. Cool. So not a huge effect, but a little one. And then for the hue, let's just see if anything happens. So I don't want to make it that red. I don't think that's a very good look. Maybe a little more yellow. Generally, I think having a yellow-blue combo looks a little bit better than an orange-blue. So sometimes I'll adjust the hue to make it look that way. Excuse me, I gotta blow my nose real quick. Okay. So I want to mess with the split toning. I want to pop out the colors in here. So the way I'll handle this is I'll crank the saturation to 100 on my highlights versus in the shadows. And then I'm going to adjust the hue Reason I crank it to 100 is I want to see exactly what that color is, and then I'll dial it way back and pump it up as I need to. So I definitely want it to have an orange hue, but I want it to be on the yellow side. So I'm thinking right there, kind of a dreamsicle sort of look. So I'll move that back to 0, so it's not affecting anything currently. And I'll slowly just start moving that up. It's about there or so. I think is where I'll leave it for a moment. Then I'll do the same thing with the shadows. In the shadows, I want to make, I want them to be blue. So now it's a matter of finding what hue of blue I want. I think about right there. Kind of halfway between a teal and a violet. Cool. I think that looks pretty decent. I'm not seeing anything I have issue with there. Cool. Now I want to mess with the temperature and everything, now that we're in the throes of color. So, way too high. Where did we start? Start at 55, okay. I always like to make note of where I'm starting because I adjust the temperature a lot, and I always end up going back to the original. Why did my highlights go up? So you see, as you adjust other little things, sometimes the whites and the blacks can get over and underexposed again. So it's gotta just keep an eye on that. I'll just dial that white down again. Cool. So I think it's a little too cold. I think it's a little too warm. So we're gonna set it about halfway in between, let's just say 56, 25. I also generally like to go for a little more magenta / pink when I'm doing this. So make an 8. No, that's a little too high. We'll do 7. We'll just up it by 1. Cool. So there's what we're doing so far. You see, it's just pretty small adjustments. A lot of it having to do with light and just bumping the saturation just a little bit and adding some specific color in areas. It can really it can make a big difference pretty quickly. Okay, what am I missing? So we've done the sharpening, we've done all that. I'll mess with a little calibration. So what this does is it changes hues of colors at the same time. So it'll make, like this one for example, if I crank it way over there, it turns blues a little more teal, and it turns reds a little more, or oranges and reds a little more red and pink. And if you go this way, it goes to more of a green purple. If you set it right in the middle, that's where it was originally. So I'll just move this side to side and see if there's anything I like in particular. I kind of like where that one's sitting with the hues of everything, so I'm not going to adjust the blue. Green primary, I don't like how yellow that made the sun flare there. So I might go a little that direction. And then on this guy, it kind of drops the saturation in a weird way. And that kind of boosts it up, but it also makes it a little more green. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of messing with that, honestly. I think we'll just kind of leave it there. Let's go back to that saturation. If I crank that up just a little bit more. Yeah, kind of like that. Trying to see what else I'm missing. I think something I'll do real quick. I like having texture in clouds. So I'm going to drop a grad filter over that. And I like to have a pretty big feather on it, meaning I like to have the effect be spread out over a large area. And then I'll just drag it about right there. Turn that overlay off. And then it doesn't have a huge effect, but you can see, especially if you watch like right here, the effect that texture has. So we'll bump it up a little bit. See if I mess with the clarity. It's not as bad with clouds. I just don't like how heavy-handed it is, you know? So I don't think I'll be messing too much with that. Dehaze, that's something we can go and definitely mess with. I'm not going to do it that much. Yeah, we'll do that real quick and see how everything looks. So I just add a little texture up here, just a little detail that I like. Okay, so our dehaze is sitting at 24 right now. If we bring that back here and then readjust it. See, I think that's, of course, way too much. But maybe about there, probably about where I had it, I think looks good, even after I've adjusted everything. One thing I'm noticing, I think I want to up the shadows a little bit more. Just a little bit. because I like having detail in here. But I think I'm going to bring those blues back down, honestly. Maybe even desaturate the blues. Yeah. Alright, so what I like to do at this point is just kind of take my hand off of the keyboard and just give it a once over before I send it into Photoshop. Now, granted, I can change pretty much everything I just did in Photoshop because it's a raw file and you have all these same adjustments really in Photoshop, but still, I like this to just be where I do the bulk of the work, and then Photoshop is kind of the specialty stuff that you'll see in a sec. Yeah, so I'm going to take a sec, just look at it. I probably shouldn't be staring directly at it because then I won't notice anything different. So I'll wait for the stream to catch up here. See what you guys think. How do you guys think it looks generally? Any suggestions? I'm open to anything. If you see anything that looks weird, any weird colors, just let me know. You can see how much of a difference all that's made. I like the matte of the blacks. So, to the people watching who haven't commented yet, leave a comment. Let's see who else is in here. Hope everybody's staying safe in these in these strange times. Well, I think we're good. Love the background tree on the right, Moody. I'm right there with you, Adam. It was like when I was first taking the shot, I didn't notice like that part. Of course, I was looking directly at the tree that I was photographing because like that was the important part, you know. But I didn't notice how cool this tree looked here. I didn't notice the nice light coming in down here. But now that I've fully gone through it and everything, I'm like, damn, those are pretty cool additions, I think. Cool. Looks good. I think it's as glorious as you. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Mama Bird. Alright, I think we look good. So what I'm going to do now is throw it into Photoshop. Easiest way to do that is just going to be to right-click on an image, hit Edit In, and then Adobe Photoshop. And then just give it a sec. My processor's running a little heavier because I'm live streaming and everything, so it should only take a few seconds. Alright, it's popping up now. There it is. Cool. Alright. So, first thing I think we're going to do is doing the removing of the sign and the road, and then I'm going to throw in the snow and do some color adjusting, but I want to get those out of the way. So, technically I think I could do both at the same time, I just don't want to. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom in here and just get the whole of the sign, and then because Photoshop is amazing, we're just going to content aware fill that sign out and do whatever clone stamping we have to. I don't know how much clone stamping I'll be able to do because for some reason that's really processor heavy on my computer, and it's, like I said, it's running heavier than it usually does right now, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm just going to do this whole sign. I'm going to get all around this glow on the side here and just get as much as I can. I'm probably going to do this bush or cactus, whatever that is. I'm going to get that out as well. We're going to start right here. And then I'm working with a magic trackpad here. I don't have a mouse, and so I'm clicking with one finger and dragging with another. Now, what's interesting about the content aware fill that I noticed when I did this the first time is in some areas it just totally blurred it out, and like it made a pretty good color adjustment, but then it just blurred everything out, and in some areas it like perfectly copied the texture of what's around it. So we'll see what it does this time. I'm expecting something pretty similar. Have to have real steady hands, and then we'll go around the bush. I want to take that road out anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. Cool. Now I've made that selection, and then what we do is make sure that that layer is selected. Go over to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Oh, it's doing that. So we'll do, I like to do Auto. generally for when for how it finds the areas it's going to mess with. And you know what? That looks pretty decent. I mean, you can see and hear what I was talking about with the weird blur that it adds. A little bit up here too. That's exactly what it did the first time. But like I said, this is a pretty rough edit. I'm not going to do like fully for print everything. So I think I'm just going to leave it that way. So we'll hit OK, and boom, it takes that out. You can see just how amazing Photoshop really is. Cool, and then we're going to do the road. So I'm going to select that layer again. Instead of doing a lasso, I'm going to make my life a lot easier. Just do a rectangular selection. So start down here, and then I'm going to get up and over this grass right here, just because if I didn't, the glow that's on it would just make a weird effect. I don't really know how to explain it. It just looks better if I take it out. So we do the exact same thing. Content aware fill. I'm just gonna have auto selected, and now it's just generating the preview. And well, actually, I need to do one thing. So it's gonna, right now, because I just have this one layer selected, it's gonna assume that that sign is still here, and it might pull from it. And so there was a little blur from the sign right there. So I'm gonna do something here in a sec. What did you say, Aaron? Need a mouse too. Rough editing with a trackpad. Honestly, like when it comes to the mouse, I go back and forth with how I like the trackpad. I like having it because I can just do this like gesture control with like the pinch to zoom and everything, which is super nice. And I can, you know, if I'm in here, I can drag around super easily like I would on a phone or my laptop or anything. Only issue comes when I'm drawing lines like that. Quick solution for it, the one I have I don't really like, but getting a Wacom tablet, you know, it's one of the tablets that's just USB powered and then use a little pen or stylus. That's probably the best option for doing stuff like that. I just don't have a super high quality one. I don't really enjoy using it, but I think a trackpad with that is, in my opinion, the best option. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both these layers and I'm going to merge them. So now it's just one cohesive thing. There's no one layer with the sign and then the sign taken out in another layer. So now when I do the content aware fill with just the one layer selected, it'll select it based on an image without that sign. So then content aware fill. Let's give it a second to generate that preview. Cool. So now we'll come in here, and you can see some more of that blur still. That's something that's pretty easily clone stampable, and it really won't be a distraction. I might end up doing that here. We'll see. So I'm going to hit OK again, and boom. So you can see kind of the effect that that had. Like I said, a little bit of, I think we call them artifacts. Some artifacts right here. You kind of see that hard line. But if you just do a little light clone stamping, and then once I throw that snow in on the top, really won't be that noticeable. Won't be too bad. So I'm going to select those and do that same merge layers. This may not be the best method for doing it. It's just how I do it. Cool. I think it's time for the snow. So I have a, I'll show you guys actually. I have a pack of, where is it? There it is. I have a pack of 70 of these snow overlays that I bought, and so this is what I'll be using to throw into the picture, and I'll kind of show you how it works. I already have one pre-selected that I already used that I liked. It's this guy right here, and so a lot of you who don't know Photoshop, really quick for Adam. So here, if I just create a new layer real quick. So what I did, Adam, is I shift clicked both of them, so I just have both layers selected, right click on it, and then merge layers. Easiest way to do it. I'm sure with the content aware fill I could have just right click selected layers and then done the content aware fill, but I don't know if that would have worked. This is just the method I like doing, especially if I'm just content aware filling little things. I don't need them to be their own layer for any real reason, so might as well just merge them together. So with the snow, those of you who may not be familiar with Photoshop or how overlays work are probably saying, well, dude, that has a black background. Like, how the heck are you going to do that? There's a thing called blending modes within Photoshop, which is what I'm going to use for this. and it basically just takes only the light areas of the photo and puts it on top, and it takes out all of the black or dark areas. It's pretty cool. So I'll show you how that works right now. So what I'm going to do is just take this image and drag it on top of this one. And then I'm going to rotate it because obviously this is landscape and my main photo is portrait. So rotate a little bit until this control pops up. I'm going to do -90. Cool. Then I'm going to drag it right there over the top. I know it's a little bigger than the original photo, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to take out this layer. Cool. So this is where we do that that screening. So you just select whatever layer you're going to screen, and then it's just a little drop-down menu right here. And for this one, we're going to be doing screen. And then boom. So you can see it kept all of the actual snow in the photo, but it took out all the black. Now what I do from here is I almost never leave it at full opacity. I'll drag that probably to, I think I did about 30% the first time, maybe 20, 26. Yeah, that looks good. So that way it's just not as heavily apparent in the photo. And then what I'm going to do, because Ian, you pointed this out and it actually made a pretty good difference. I don't like how easily you can see all the flakes up here on the top. So what I'm going to do is add a layer mask. So the easy way to do that is just select your layer, hit that little rectangle with the circle on it. It creates a layer mask. Basically what this does is it gives you the freedom for saying, okay, I want this part of the photo to be completely visible. I want this part to be kind of visible, and I want this to be almost invisible, totally transparent. And it gives you the ability to say which areas in particular on that layer you can see and you can see through. So when it's white, that means the full thing is visible. What I'm gonna do, black, of course, is the opposite. Black takes some of it away. So I have a brush right here, pretty big size. I have it 30% hardness, so it's not a full hardness brush. And then I drag that opacity down really far because I don't want just one click to wipe out snow. I want to do it pretty gradually. And then I have the flow turned down just a little bit, kind of for the same effect. So I'm going to zoom out a little more. This is why I like having the trackpad. I can just zoom out as much as I need to so I can make accurate adjustments that way. So I'm just going to start clicking a few times up in here. And you can slowly start to see that snow fade away just a little bit. I feel like Bob Ross. So we're just going to click a little bit more through here. Cool. So I like how that looks. You can still see the snow up in here, but it's just not crazy. You can see the effect. Oop. Didn't mean to do that. If I disable that layer mask, you can see the effect that that had. And then if I enable it again, you can see how it just took away a little bit up there. So it's just not as distracting, which is nice. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're gonna get into the final color adjusting on the normal photo itself. So easiest way to do that is to open Camera Raw. But something I learned, again, thank you, Ian, is if I were to just do a Camera Raw adjustment on this layer as is, once I adjust everything, I can't go back and see those same adjustments and like undo them, if you know what I mean. The way you can do that is if you right click on the layer, convert it to a smart object, and give Photoshop a sec to actually do that. You can see this little icon down here now shows us that it is in fact a smart object. And then I forget I think it's Command Option A or Command Shift A on a Mac. I'm just gonna search it up here. Camera Raw. Cool. So I'm gonna do a Camera Raw filter. And so now it's gonna add a filter on top of this image, but it's adjustable like after the fact, which is the part that I want. So what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna add a graduated filter down here at the bottom, and thankfully you have all those same tools up here in the Camera Raw area of Photoshop. So I'm just gonna drag one again, pretty large feather. I'm gonna turn on that mask. I'm gonna drag that down just so it's affecting this foreground. Turn that mask off. And then I'm going to add some negative exposure. I forgot to undo all these. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit of negative exposure down there, just so that's not as distracting. I think a stop's actually pretty good. Okay. I'm going to hit OK on that, just so it gets affected. So you can already see just down there at the bottom of the photo, just a little effect it had. It's pretty minute, but in the end, it's those little details that can really help. So then I'm gonna go back in here. I'm just gonna double click on the raw filter. And so what I'm gonna do is I really want to bump up those oranges again. So I'm just gonna punch that saturation or that vibrance again, just because I really want this to be a saturated photo. I'm trying to remember what all I did last time. I know one thing I did was I adjusted the look of the light rays to be just a little stronger. So, get that out of there. Bump that size up. Ooh, a little too high. Let's do about 4. Let's do 4. Okay. Then let's bring you back. Turn that mask on. Okay, so I'm gonna draw pretty roughly on these light rays. I'm not gonna do anything too crazy or too detailed. I basically just want them to pop out a little more. Okay, cool. We'll turn that mask off. And then I'm going to pump the whites a little bit. Is utilizing the camera raw better than taking it back into Lightroom? In this particular instance, I'm going to say yes. Just because I'm making multiple... What am I trying to say? Because I'm messing with the snow and everything, and I'm doing the content aware filling, I want to have all these adjustments just kind of happen at the same time together, and then when I throw it back into Photoshop, or back into Lightroom, I'm sorry, I can just adjust the image as a whole, but as it stands right now, I don't want to be messing with how the snow looks. I just want the snow to be on top of whatever I'm adjusting. So it's easier, I think, to mess with the camera raw in Photoshop, so you just mess with that back layer independent of the snow, and then when I throw this back into Lightroom, I can make whatever micro adjustments I really need to. Hopefully that answered your question. What was it doing? Oh yeah, I was messing with the light rays. So I bumped the whites up a little bit. Don't do the contrast. I might do the highlights too a little bit. I don't want to do anything too crazy. See, like, I don't want to do that because that looks terrible. Maybe about there, and then pump saturation just a little bit. Okay, then we'll click off of that. And honestly, that's looking pretty good to me. I kind of want to change the hue just a little bit, and you still have all those same adjustments in here. So when it comes to the oranges, I kind of want them to shift a little more to the red side. Maybe not that much, just a little bit, just a little bit. Then we're gonna just pump these up just a little bit more. I just love having it really punch through. Ooh. Okay, cool. Then we'll set OK on that, and boom. So now you can see all the adjustments I just made there. That orange being popped up, the exposure down on the bottom, and then those light rays just coming through a little bit more. So, one thing I could have done, and I probably should do, I guess, just to kind of show it, would be clone stamping. Why can I not zoom in? There we go. So especially down here on the bottom, it's pretty obvious that something happened here. So I'm just going to do it pretty roughly. So you select your stone clone stamp tool. Can't freaking speak today. Then I'm going to option select on that. Oh yeah. Quick thing, if you're doing any kind of clone stamping, either do it before you do any camera raw adjustments, or make sure you are done with all your camera raw adjustments before doing the clone stamping. Reason being, you can't clone stamp or do any kind of like lasso selection or content aware filling, anything on a smart object, I've come to find out. So I'm happy with the camera raw adjustments I made. So to go from smart object to non-smart object, back to a regular layer, right click on the layer again, hit rasterize, and it just turns it to a normal layer again. And now I can do my normal adjustments. So I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger and some water. I haven't talked this much like all quarantine. Feels weird. Alright, so I'm just going to select that rough little area there. I'm going to stamp it, that there, that guy there, you here. There's no real rhyme or reason to the way I'm doing this. It's really just rough. Because it's better than having that blur, having just some weird textures, especially if it's a little darker and that snow is on top of it, it really won't be noticeable. So, you can already see the difference that made. It already looks a lot more normal that way. We'll come over here, we'll just select you. Come down here. Cool, I think that looks pretty good. One thing I tried messing with before is that area right above the circle. You can see that pretty hard line right there. There's no real easy way to mess with that. If you go and look on the photo on my Instagram, you can see it pretty heavily. I just didn't care too much to mess with it, honestly. One thing I might do, though, is try and just fix this. So just select that. Like I said, nothing too crazy. It's better to have like the weird textures and then the hard blurry line, I think. So that looks pretty good. Especially once you drag back out all the way up to here, you don't really notice that any of that's there. Especially when I throw the snow back on. I think we're good. So roughly, I think that's looking pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is Command S. I'm going to save it, which should open it back up in Photoshop, although I already have. Okay, cool. It's going to do Edit too. So if I close that, go back into Lightroom. There we go. Where are we at? Edit to TIFF. So this is what we just edited. Whenever you like are adjusting a raw in Photoshop, and then you save it, it creates a separate TIFF file, and then it automatically imports that to your Lightroom catalog. So you can just save it and then go straight back into Lightroom. So now we're here. This is exactly what we just worked on in Photoshop. And so I'm just trying to think anything that I noticed. Maybe the dehaze just a little bit. Drop the blacks just a little bit. Shadows up a little bit. Contrast up a little bit. Other than that, though, that's pretty much where I left it. So I made it a little brighter in the other version. So maybe we'll just do that. We'll just pump that exposure. Let's do about 3/4 of one. No, let's go back to a half. That was too much. Maybe a little more green, but I'm still happy with how this one turned out, honestly. So, yeah. I'll wait for the stream to catch up. Throw any questions or criticisms or anything that you guys have before I end anything. We'll address it real quick. So I'll just wait for this to catch up, see if anybody says anything. Has the stream been okay? Any kind of lag issues or anything like that? Well, nothing so far. If you guys type any questions or anything, it takes a sec for me to actually see it. So I mean, you can really see, just how far those edits can really take. And honestly, like everything I did, I saved criticism for Warzone sessions. Okay, thanks, bud. All the adjustments and edits I did really weren't anything crazy or like difficult to learn. It was just a matter of upping some color and changing the lighting. But you can really, really, take advantage of all that photo has to offer. That's like the really, really helpful thing about shooting in a raw format. All of that information that was in here we were able to pull out in here. You know, I didn't add anything. I just pushed what was already there, other than the snow, of course. So, cool. Is there anything else you guys want to see edited? I'm more than happy to kind of show anything. Well, I guess that's it. I really enjoyed doing this, not gonna lie. I liked having the live audience for the whole thing. So maybe I'll just do that in the future. Maybe I'll just start live streaming editing sessions. Just, you know, people can come and hang out and kind of see everything. How would you guys feel if I did an astrophotography kind of tutorial? You know, what if I did? Let me just open it. Have to find the right one. Alright, let me open up this catalog and I'll show you a photo I've always kind of thought of doing something like this for. So for this photo right here, you know, it started as that. And then we push it to that. Would that be something you guys would be interested in at some point? Wish there wasn't so much lag so I didn't have this like awkward silence. I guess I should watch my phone. That's a lot faster. Yeah, maybe soon I'll, you know what, screw it. While we're doing a live stream, I already have people here. We're just going to run through this one as well, because I didn't do any Photoshop on this one. This was all Lightroom. So, yeah, let's do it real quick. So I think I have a virtual copy here. I'll just reset everything. Alright, if you guys are seeing this, I'm watching on my phone and it just lagged out. Looks like it's still showing okay on my end. Maybe it's not. Huh. Alright, well, I guess I'm going to stop it here because it looks like I'm having some internet issues all of a sudden. If you're watching this, thank you so much for watching. I'll do an Astro one next time. I need to figure out what's going on here. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions or anything, or want to see more of these, either leave a comment here on this live stream. Come contact me on my Instagram at d.mcmains. McMains just like in my my YouTube name there. Other than that, yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.